You are what would you consider yourself, like a motivational speaker or just a
Yeah, I guess. I mean, motivational speaker,
kind of
true speaker. Let's just say
a true
that.
speaker? I like that.
Speaking
Yeah.
reality,
Yeah,
right? Things that are
exactly.
important.
So you have a great story, and before we get into that, I kind of just want to know, like, where have you been speaking at?
So not too much this year, obviously. I
Yeah.
had some things planned for Little Flower. It's supposed to be a yearly thing, but
Yeah.
I didn't get to do that because they were out of school this year.
Yeah.
The end of this year, I got to do Shriners Glam Camp
That's awesome.
last week. That was exciting.
That's really cool.
You said Little Flowers like a yearly thing, right? I was going to say, how'd you get connected with them?
So, a family friend of mine, Mrs. McDonald, so I went to Cardinal Doherty my
Okay.
freshman year of high school.
Nice.
She was my dean there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Nice.
then my brother-in-law is good friends with her son. She works at Little Flower now. So
cool.
she asked, and like she knows my whole story and everything.
That's awesome.
She knows what I want to do, so she invited me to go, and I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
So she asked me to come back for a second year.
That's
That's
really
awesome.
cool. So, and yeah, you have a TED Talk too.
I know.
Not many people can say that.
No.
That's really
I
impressive.
used to put that like in my Tinder bio, like I have a TED
That's-
Talk.
Dude, that's so cool. That's awesome.
You said that was your TED Talk was in Boston, right?
It was, yeah. My TEDx Youth Talk was in Boston and Burlington, Massachusetts, right outside Boston.
That's so cool. And when they hit you up and flew you out, and
So another family friend, Joe Mazza is his name, is like a educator, and someone asked him to do it, and
okay.
so he had another segment like in the same day that I did mine, and he reached out to me and he was like, do you want to come with me and do your
That's
own?
so-
And I was like, obviously.
That's awesome. So how was that experience? Like just being in Boston and speaking to so many people at a time.
Yeah, it was, I wish I could have lived it up more and like appreciated it, but I was just because that was the very first time I ever public spoke about it.
Oh wow.
My TED Talk was the first time I did public speaking.
Wow.
So
Oh my
you just,
God.
Wow.
You do it out of the
That
bat.
That had to be like crazy stretching your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Does it make you eventually get more and more comfortable like each time you do it, or is it always kind of a nervous thing like when you're about to talk?
That time was, I mean, I think I'm kind of glad that I did it that way the first time, like something big like that the very first time, because then after that it seems like
I mean, everything now
you
is
know what to expect, kind of.
everything now is just kind of light. Like you're sitting with us, and it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's nothing. You know
You
what I mean?
always get nervous talking to people like that though, because you're just like, oh my God. I mean, everyone's naturally
Right.
self-conscious,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. And do you feel like you had a huge? I feel like you had a huge effect on those people, right? I mean, it must have been awesome being up there.
I still have friends from college who are teachers now, and like we'll show it to their students in school and stuff, and sometimes it's surreal. You look back and you're like, oh my God, like I did that, and they're
Yeah, it's crazy. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised what you can do when you put your mind to something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's I feel like a lot of times we don't realize like what individual acts can have effect on especially in these days with social media and
Mhm.
YouTube and everything. Like
Yeah.
one person can reach way more people than ever before in history. You
Yeah.
know?
100%.
I was talking last time you guys were talking about Patty Wax. One time I was at Patty Wax, a complete stranger I knew or didn't know came up to me and was like, "Are you Bryn McMahon?" And I was like, "Yeah."
No,
And they were like, "I literally just watched your TED Talk the other day," and I was like,
that's so cool.
That is
getting
awesome.
recognized.
Yeah,
so-
I remembered you when you brought up Patty. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I remember you. You would go to like Mike and Callie and stuff like that, and
yeah,
all those type of things. So yeah, I remember I would see you a few times, and that's so cool. Crazy how the world goes full circle,
Yeah.
you know. But you've been beating around the bush for a little bit. Why did you give your TED Talk, and what was the event or the story that kind of led up to you being the great person that you are?
So, yeah, I'll just start from the beginning. So 2010 is when I attempted to commit suicide. I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore in high school. One night, on March 29th, that's my life day, we call it now, because obviously I survived. So
Yeah.
I attempted to commit suicide. I put myself in front of a train because I figured that was going to end it all, and obviously it didn't. I fractured my vertebrae, at C3, and then I had a spinal fusion at C4 to C6, which left me paralyzed from the chest down. I spent a month in the ICU. I spent 3 months doing rehab, and it just, I mean, obviously when you attempt suicide, you think, what are the odds that I would, thinking about getting hit by a train, who the frick would survive that?
Yeah.
You think it's going to be a one and done thing. So when I woke up in the hospital, I was like, what the actual fuck am I just still doing here?
Something still wants you here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what that says. Talk a little bit about some of the things that kind of led up to that decision, because there's people out there right now, obviously, that struggle with mental health, and just kind of touch on some things that were going on in your mind at that time.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to say, not favorite thing to say, but I try to iterate to a lot of people, is that I mean, looking from the outside looking in, I had an amazing life. Like, I wasn't bullied to a point. I wasn't like cutting or anything like that. Like, no one really would have known, obviously. That's why everyone was shocked.
Right.
I was a cheerleader. I was like an honor student. I had a bunch of friends and stuff. But being like I'm a semi-introverted person, and I'm always definitely one of the type of people who I want to fix things by myself, no matter what it is. I didn't really share how I was feeling. One, I didn't even recognize that what I was feeling wasn't normal. Like, I didn't think that wanting to kill myself was like everyone didn't think like that. Yeah. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. So that's why I didn't really reach out or ask anybody to get help, because I didn't know that I needed help. And then one night something just snapped, and that's exactly how I say is I literally snapped. I wrote notes to my family and left in the middle of the night, and that was it. And
wow, that's a lot.
That is so I think one of the biggest things is, right, at that age, no one kind of understands yet who they are, right? So, like, when you were thinking all those thoughts, it was probably just all coming at you so fast, and it's easy to get overwhelmed when you're thinking about all those different things, and, you know. Yeah,
you were so young, like, you know what I mean? Like, when I was 15, I didn't even know what, high school, or, like, or what I want to do with college, or, like, just crazy, but.
I know. Well, and that's the thing, too. Everyone's like, oh, you were 15 years old. How hard could your life been? And it's not even about that. Your life doesn't have to be hard. My life wasn't hard. I mean, in 15-year-old standards, I thought it was hard, but that's not why I tried to kill myself, because my life was hard. It was because, like,
I mean, there's so many different reasons.
I felt I needed to escape, just end things the way they were. Mm-hmm. And
I think some people, maybe with quote unquote hard lives, sometimes are happy, or I don't know. This stuff's so complex that there's not one reason that you can pinpoint. You know what I mean? Like, it's a terrible feeling, right? When you, like, if you don't feel like you like the person you are, then
I mean,
that's really what it comes down to sometimes.
Yeah, everything's relative, and everyone's issues are different. You know what I mean? Maybe people's issues are different and have different weights to them. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and that's like one thing. You can always compare your struggle to someone else's, but that doesn't fix yours, and it definitely doesn't fix theirs.
Exactly.
So
nope, it doesn't do a single thing to yours, and that's exactly right. You've been able to, like, give back and just kind of speak your truth, which I think is so important, and you turn something that could have been so bad into a positive. And do you feel the same way? Like, how do you feel, like, after all of that?
So obviously I did my attempt in a way that I was never going to be able to hide from it. People are always if you attempt, like, overdosing and stuff like that, it's kind of, people can sweep it under the rug if they want to. Not saying that they need to, but if they want to, they can. Everyone in Northeast Philly basically knew what happened.
Yeah, right.
So I could either take it one way, where I could be ashamed of it, or I could try to help other people who might be going through the same thing. And at first, I don't even remember if that's really what I wanted to do. It was 10 years ago, so.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, yeah.
But to a point when I like my family is very supportive. I mean, before, I always say this, before I got hurt, we weren't the type of people to talk about our emotions and stuff like that. It just, we're like a tough Irish Catholic family where you don't really talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
After I got hurt, now we tell each other everything, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So my mom, especially my dad, my sister, my brother, they made it a point to know that like what happened was okay. I mean, and then I try to make sure everyone else knows that it's also okay to talk about it. Like, I'm not ashamed of it, so if you have questions about it, then absolutely ask questions about it, because I don't want the same thing to happen to another person, even younger. I mean, older too, but no child should have to go through that again. So
that's so courageous of you to even think like that. You're putting other people above yourself in a way, which is amazing. But kind of talk about, I just had a question about like, what's the process been? I know it's been 10 years and it happened in 2015, right? So talk a little bit about that like transition process when you wake up from that and now you kind of have to face, you know, life going forward and just talk a little bit about the things you do on a daily basis to kind of keep your mind right and all that type of stuff.
So after I first got hurt, I was obviously in the hospital for that reason, and you're so in shock and everything. The spinal cord injury as a whole is a whole different dragon to deal with.
Yeah.
But I remember my doctors, I posted this on my Instagram too, but the doctors coming in and be like, okay, well, what antidepressants do you want to be on? And me laying in the bed still, like, not come to terms that I had tried to kill myself. I was like, I don't need antidepressants. Like, I'm not a depressed person. And my mom was sitting next to my bed and was like, fuck no, you're getting antidepressants.
Yeah.
So after that, if you get, like, come to terms with, like, oh, yeah, I really have depression. Like, I really need to do something about this. You start I started therapy right away when I was in the hospital. Started taking my antidepressants, and I didn't want to take the antidepressants because I thought that it made you happy all the time. Like, I thought you wouldn't have any other emotion. So, which I think is a common misconception. I mean, I've had a friend recently say that they feared the same thing. And I was like, oh, well, that's not really how it works. I mean, I still cry all the time, so.
Right. That's important too, because there is a stigma on like antidepressants and all that stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, so do you think when all that stuff happened, like beforehand, do you think you were depressed, or did you just like have like pain? Because I feel like there's a lot of people out there watching who could really relate to how you felt like before you, like, you know what I mean? Because there are some times where people just feel so alone and they feel like they have like no one to go to, and the biggest issue is that they feel like they're alone and they don't reach out to somebody.
Right. Okay, so I think that looking back, it just feels like such a blur, honestly, but I truly do think that I was a depressed person. I mean, depression shows itself in so many ways, and I was living my life. I was like going to school every day, going to practice every day, going out with friends every weekend. But when I was alone by myself, I just was not happy. Like, I was not happy with myself. I wasn't happy, not necessarily with other people, but just like knew I wasn't feeling
maybe like the best version of yourself,
exactly.
I guess.
Right.
Exactly. And I felt like there was no way that I would ever be the best version of myself. I'm gonna start crying.
It's okay.
So eventually I got to that point that I was like, there's no way I can get any better than what I'm feeling right now. So
and we're very happy that you're here still, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
And there's someone out there, I truly believe that there's something that kept you here for a reason, you know? Talk a little bit about like therapy and how you feel about that. I know you said you started going to therapy. Are you still seeing somebody, and do you think it's beneficial to see a therapist?
1,000%.
Yeah.
I they made you start therapy after you get hurt. After you get a spinal cord injury, they make you get it anyway, just because that's a life-changing event.
Precaution.
So, yeah. So I started. I loved my therapist there. When I got out of the hospital, my mom, I was so young, so obviously my mom was like, you're doing it. I did therapy again. I didn't really click with that therapist that much, so I didn't get out of it what I wanted to. It was kind of more just like a cautionary thing to make sure I'm on the right track. And obviously, of course, you fall back into, even when you're taking your antidepressants and whatever, you can still have those bad days or bad stretches. So in the beginning of this year, or the end of last year, I started to like kind of get back into that funk of whatever it is 10 years later, probably because my 10-year anniversary was coming up. So I started again because I knew that counseling, it literally can save lives. Having that other person that has no stake in your personal life whatsoever,
no judgment.
that's not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to help you figure things out, where I say this all the time. They give you advice that you probably would have thought of by yourself, but you don't want to listen to yourself because you think it's a stupid idea. When someone else says it, you're like, wow. That's amazing.
They definitely put things in perspective, and I can totally relate because I go to a therapist too, and my first therapist, we didn't click, and it just like you said, you just didn't get what you wanted to get out of it. But when you meet that right person, you realize that therapy is so like it's so like, I'm not gonna say therapeutic, but it's very it helps your soul, like it really does, because you're just able to like let it out to somebody who, like you said, who's not gonna go tell another person or judge you. They're gonna lead you in the right direction because that's what they've been growing up their whole lives to do. And it's so important that if someone is going to therapy right now and they're not with someone that they might click with, don't give up. Like, try again. Like, find another one. There's so many of them.
And if it doesn't feel right with the person, don't try to keep pushing it with the same person
right.
either.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
You're going to waste your time. If you're not doing it with someone who is helping you, just, there is a therapist that will click with you. I promise.
Is there any practices you put into place for like any self-therapeutic things that you do that you try to maintain?
Doing what I do, helping other people is very
it's amazing, right?
therapeutic for me.
Yep.
Yes.
Like, I know that if I'm helping someone else, that's keeping me in check too.
Yep.
Because how can I preach something to other people if I'm not doing that myself?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that is one thing obviously, of course, reading and listening to music. You always want to do that, just because creative stuff.
Yeah.
It helps you.
What have you read recently?
So in the beginning of quarantine, I started a book club via Instagram.
That's awesome. No,
with like a bunch of my friends.
I'm joining it.
He might join it.
I'm a huge reader.
I think we kind of like dissolved it after a while, but it's fine.
We might have to start one.
Yeah, we can start another one. So over the summer, I was reading, like, obviously everyone had their own suggestions, so I was reading a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
I'll read whatever, honestly.
Right.
I mean, I like more of mystery type things.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a freak,
awesome.
but
I think one of the coolest things about reading is how it gives you a perspective that you otherwise would have never gotten from just living your life. Like, you just go along living your life, and like, you read a book, and if it's a good book, it's gonna teach you something that otherwise you would have never known.
And you're able to share it with other people. Yeah,
exactly.
What I mean?
You can share a book with them, or you can whatever.
Yeah, and Nick he has 1,000 books he could probably show you that are just so like that just really like enlighten you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
more like self-help.
Yeah,
type.
I think that's one I need to like start. Like, I don't do. I mean, I did. I think it's called I Am That Girl. I read that recently. Over the summer I read it.
Okay.
Which is more of a motivational, and I freaking loved it.
Yeah, it like puts you in a good, I don't know.
You're like, yeah, I can do anything.
Right.
I'm awesome.
I mean,
you just learn like it's so much in life. Really, it's just you against you a lot of times. You know what I mean? And I just think it's the most important thing. I really do. I think your mindset can take you a lot of places.
Yep. Yeah. like I said, this third episode in a row, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's what my grandma.
That's his favorite quote.
That's my favorite quote. I'm getting it. Yeah, I might get it tatted somewhere.
I think you need to get that tatted at
Your
this
grandma's
point.
gonna sue you, copyright.
Nah, right. If there's someone out there watching this episode right now who may be feeling the same way you felt, what kind of piece of advice would you be able to give them?
So I do this. I use this advice because I also try to help people with spinal cord injuries too. They teach you this. You have to be your own advocate 1,000%.
Yeah.
I completely understand that you don't feel like reaching out and getting help. You don't when you're in that depressed state, you don't feel like doing anything. So it's hard to want to reach out because you might feel judged or you might feel too vulnerable or whatever the case may be, but no one is going to help you unless you help yourself first. No one's going to know when they're looking at you like, oh, is that person like, is she going to commit suicide today?
Yeah.
They're not going to know that.
Yeah.
So if you don't say it to someone and ask someone for help, then things can go wrong very quickly.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised at what people can do when you reach out. Just to help. The support system, I think, is huge, and I think it's hidden. Like, that's one of the reasons why we even why you do what you do, and why we wanted to start this. Is just because you'd be so surprised at who will listen and who has something to say and who also feels the same way you might feel.
It's amazing. I think another reason why I started doing what I was doing was when I got home from the hospital and everything, the amount of people that were in my Facebook messages, whatever, that were saying, like, I know exactly how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Or felt, I know, like, I did it, I've done it before too. It's, like, overwhelming. It's insane how many people who have gone through the same exact thing, but you wouldn't know by looking at them, or just they wanted to hide it so much. And it's like, just stop hiding this, because if I would have known about these people who might have been close to me have gone through the same thing, then maybe I would have thought to myself, like, damn, I really should get some help.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so eye-opening, seeing, like, because you always think you're the only person in the world who's thinking that way, but it's not true. That's a lie. Like, there's somebody on the street that maybe you would walk past and you would never think that they were feeling like that, and they're feeling the same way.
Yeah, we've lost a few good people that way. You know,
absolutely.
Just by people not speaking up, and it's too late, and now you're at their funeral and you wonder what you could have done right, or you wonder what you did wrong. And I just feel like conversations like this are very important to prevent that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, everyone has their own life. They're all doing their same, like, that. It's not that people are ignoring what's going on or like don't want to help you. It's just like they're caught up in themselves, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're more than willing to help you. I mean, we all are more than willing to help somebody. So
yeah. I think what's so beautiful about your story is the way you've used social media to really put yourself out there and to really just like inspire other people. I think you've become a real advocate for depression and just suicide awareness in general, and I think it's really awesome. So you've really been giving out advice on social media. Like, what kind of advice have you been giving people?
So I try to get it to be like as easy as it can for people, because people don't like long like whatever.
Right.
So I always try to, number one, always make sure you're telling, even if it's one other person that you're feeling really shitty, like, just let somebody know.
Yeah.
Because then you have someone checking up on you. It's like making sure that you're doing what you need to do. Distancing yourself from social media sometimes is the best way to do things. Like, I did it during the election time, and I thought it was the best thing for my mental health. Having a mantra, my counselor taught me a mantra. It's super long, so I'm not going to say it on here, but I can email it to anybody. But
you can email it to me. We'll post it in the link in the
okay.
in the
Awesome. It really, like, helps you center yourself, because sometimes you just need to start your day centered and start looking at things in a different way, and it changes your whole mindset.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to start your day with yourself before you give attention to anything else, before you check your phone or before you look on your computer, whatever. You have to just take a few minutes to yourself. Do you feel that, like, how big do you think it is for you, everything you've been through, even when sometimes you probably, of course, you still have days, you're human, that you feel kind of down, when you're serving others and giving back and being a service to another person who's struggling, how good, I mean, I can't imagine how good that must make you feel, because that's one of the best things you can do, I think, is giving back and serving people.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way, so I told Gav this last night when we were talking.
Yeah.
Helping people, amazing. I suggest everyone helps people, but in this line of work or whatever you want to call it, it gets dangerous sometimes, because people, not that they don't have any boundaries or whatever the case may be, but they will come and ask you for help when they need it. So you're getting flooded with other people's problems, and just being the person I am, I want to take on everyone else's problems. So if I'm already in a depressed state and I'm trying to help other people, it's like almost makes it worse sometimes. So setting boundaries was one of the best things I had to learn during therapy, because I can't help anyone if I'm depressed as hell.
Right.
Like,
I feel like some people too, I mean, just speaking from personal experiences right now, not speaking for anybody else, like, there's been some people in my life who they're going to ask you for help. And I've even been guilty of this myself with people. Like, some people will ask you for help, but they're not really ready to make that change in their life yet. And I heard a quote, like, it's like a lifeguard going to try to save someone who's drowning. You got to be careful. They might pull you under with them, and you're both going to drown. And that's no good either. You know what I mean? I've definitely had people come to me before, and they just weren't ready to make that change. They said they were, but deep down they knew they were going to go right back. And then you give them advice for a day or two, and then a week later you check in on them and they're right back to doing what they said they were going to stop doing.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful that just with everything you've even went through, you're still able to give yourself like that. And I think that's why it resonates with so many people. And I think that's why people reach out to you, because they just kind of see you glow to be, and you like rub off on people, which I think is really amazing. Real quick, I wanted to ask, do you have any advice for parents with their children, maybe to, because I know you and your family must have had
It's a great question.
Have had a great talk about it.
So I'll probably get emotional about this, because I just saw yesterday a mom shared a thing about how her son, I don't know this family, but how her son had committed suicide, and how basically she was reminiscing about it and like asking what she could have done. And I was like heartbroken, because I know exactly how her son was feeling, but when I was going through that, I wasn't thinking about how my parents were feeling, or how they would have felt after. So when I was attempting to commit suicide, I thought I was doing the best for everyone involved. Like, I thought that me dying was going to help them, which is it. Like, when you're in a sound mind, you're like, that is, excuse my language, fucking insane. Why would my parents ever think that it was better that I was dead than just reaching out to them and saying, listen, I need help? Like, I thought that they would judge me for that, but not be mad that I was dead. So just make sure that, like, if you're a parent or whatever the case may be, an older sibling, make sure that you're checking on someone who isn't, like, not engaging with your family, but is, like, super irritable, and, like, there's little things that
Isolation
you can, isolating themselves, doing destructive behaviors, of course. It's just, you don't want to harp on them or hover over them, but me and my mom's favorite thing to say is, asking someone if they're suicidal will never make a person suicidal. If a person is suicidal it's not because that you asked them if they were going to. Like, if anything, that could save their life, because if they are suicidal and you ask them, they're going to feel comfortable telling you that they are and want to get help. So don't be afraid to, like, obviously don't do it if it's inappropriate or anything, but
No, if you see signs.
I think it can be tough for parents these days too, though, because like, I don't know, I just, like, I always talk with my parents about how different our generations are versus theirs was. Like, the challenges we face are just so much different than theirs, and sometimes it's hard for them to understand where we're coming from.
I always say the worst, most terrible day of my life, not like including the day that I got hit by a friggin' train, was laying in my bed, my hospital bed, having to explain to my family that it wasn't their fault that I tried to commit suicide. Like, I did it because I thought I was helping them, and there was nothing that they could have done, I mean, differently that would have stopped me. I personally believe that. So the fact of them blaming themselves isn't going to help anything.
We'll just know that they want you here. I think they've told you that many times.
Yeah.
There's so many.
No, my family
And I think
is desensitized to the whole thing. So
right. And I think, like, that's why suicide can be so tough on families, because it leaves people in the wake wondering, what could I have done? What could I have done? And it's like, the conversation, that's what me and him sat down and talked about before we started doing this is, you know, we're trying to just be a positive force, because these conversations don't happen enough.
I know.
You know what I mean? I've known people in my life who are gone already, and it's like, you know, I even sometimes think to myself,
just would have known.
right?
Yeah,
I even sometimes, you know, I'm hard on myself sometimes. Like, man, I wish I could have just had a conversation with that person. I wish 10 minutes if I could have just sat down and told them, like, listen, man, I struggle with that too, because we all, at the end of the day, in some points of our lives, we are gonna feel some sort of depression or some sort of anxiety. No matter who you are, no one's safe from that feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's so important that to the people you love, you just reach out.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like, even if it's just, hey, I'm just checking in on you, or hey, how are you doing today? Like, that can really make or break someone's day or a choice, you know.
And asking the right questions too, because like a lot of times when we talk to our friends, like, I'll notice maybe 3-4 hours go by if I'm talking to them, whatever. That's probably a stretch, but let's say 20 minutes. Sometimes I'm just talking about stuff that have no depth or meaning.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we're just kind of BSing our way through. And it's like, sometimes the questions need to be asked, like, hey, how have you been feeling lately? Like,
and it's like, as a person who has depression, sometimes you're just like, oh, I don't feel like talking about it.
Right, it can be exhausting.
Which sucks. Yeah, it does. But being self-aware is so incredibly important, because if you're really like getting to the point where, I get it, you don't want to talk about it sometimes. If you keep saying you don't want to talk about it, you're just burying it, and it's going to keep piling up. Eventually it's going to blow.
And I feel like it's natural. Like, no one wants to have these tough conversations.
Right.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, you'd rather just laugh and joke around and act like everything's okay. Like, no one wants to talk about this stuff, but it's important.
I want to ask you a question. So if you had your 15-year-old self in front of you, and she was going through what she was going through, and you were in the same room as her, what would you say to her?
Oh my God. I would probably punch the shit out of her first. And then just like be like, whatever you're thinking will not matter 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Not that it won't matter, but looking back to, like, from now to what I was going through and what was making me depressed, those things are insignificant now. Like, they have no bearing in my life. So the fact that they made you want to kill yourself is mind-blowing. I think one of the best things to do when you're in a depressive state is to think of your future self and not think of all the bad things that are going to happen, because that's easy. Like, obviously everyone's going to go through terrible things, but look at the things that may happen that are going to be amazing. Like, my sister just had a baby this year, my nephew. I would have never been able to meet him if I had succeeded, and he is the best human being in the entire world. So if you try to put things in perspective of like, make the future you proud of being able to say, like, I overcame my depressive state, or I didn't let my depression win that day.
I feel like that's such a important topic you just hit on there. Is like so many things that we get so down about. Like, if you just look at, sometimes it's not even a year, sometimes it's a couple months. Like, you never know what can happen, right? Like you think like it's never going to get better, right? But you truthfully never know what can happen. Somebody in your family, sometimes it's small things, someone getting married, someone having kids, someone, you know what I mean? Like, and it's crazy because like some certain things aren't going to matter at all. Like, certain people that you're having problems with, maybe they might not even be in your life a few months from now. Or
I think
it's amazing.
I think your nephew is gonna have a great aunt.
Well, he's freaking stuck with me.
That's awesome. How old's your nephew?
He is 8 months old.
That's awesome.
Well, he's 8 months.
That's
so
amazing.
he was born like right in the beginning of the corona.
He was born a day before my 10-year life day.
Oh wow!
So
it's amazing how life comes full circle.
I know.
That's insane, man.
Like, it was
like you said in the TED Talk videos. The label of it was "Life is a Journey."
Yeah, that was my quote when I was.
And I 100% believe life is 100% a journey. It's amazing how things can come full circle. Things that you would never expect to happen.
I know. Like, Ted. So that is insane. Just thinking about my nephew. Like, if I would have known March 28th of 2010 that 10 years from now I was gonna have a little nephew that day, I would have never did what I did. But
I think people need
like a sign.
I know,
that's like a sign
crazy.
right there in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's like, look, I'm so happy you're still here, you know?
I think the biggest thing is just getting people who are depressed excited for their future because they have so much going for them.
I mean,
you know,
not saying my life is not perfect in any type of way. My whole situation brings a depression in a completely different way than I had it before.
Yeah.
But it's things you get through. Like, everyone has problems. That's not discounting your own problems, but you can get through it. You can. I promise you can.
How have these challenges you're faced with now, how has it changed you as a person?
I take nothing seriously. Well, I mean, I try to.
That's a nice way to live, to be honest with you. It is. I
mean, obviously you have to take something seriously, but I think that people as a whole just aren't laid back enough, and I'm lucky that I don't struggle with anxiety. I have family members who just worry all the time. That's not who I am, so it's easy for me to say that, but it really puts things in perspective. Like, when I first got injured, I couldn't even move my arms, so the fact that 10 years later I can do anything that I can now is just a benefit. Like, I was not going to be able to do anything except for laying in bed. So looking at what I can do, you have to appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, I think it's amazing what you turn your perspective and life into.
You have to force yourself sometimes. It didn't start like that.
It's not easy, no.
And it's not every day, because I'm not going to say every day I'm like this happy ass person. No, there are days where I'm like, this sucks that I'm in a wheelchair. Like, I wish I wasn't like this, but it is what it is. You can't change it, right?
Do you feel that everything happens for a reason?
I actually hate that saying.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Wow, okay.
Because I think that not everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
like,
that's fine.
Just from the people that I've lost, my loved ones and things, there was no reason for it. I mean, I'm lucky that I got to be where I am now because of a blessing.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I don't think
there's definitely things that are very arbitrary.
unfair.
Yeah, like
Unfair.
life
I
has
wouldn't say everything. Like some things, yeah, definitely happen for a reason. Because I'm
Right.
here doing this with you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there had to be a reason where we all lined up and did this.
right.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a sense of arbitrary in life that like some things in life, a lot of things in life are random. A lot of things in life are random. Like there's some things you can't explain.
Like when a certain thing happens to you, you have one or two options. You can either sulk about it,
Mm.
or you can use what you have and make the most of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a
And it's just sulking about it. Like let yourself feel the feelings. If you're not feeling
yeah,
100%, let yourself feel that
yeah.
and appreciate your depression for that day. Once you let it go, once you let it overcome you, that's when you're getting too far.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing. Is letting yourself feel that
Mhm.
emotion, and because you have to feel those things in order to get past them. Like you know what I mean? Because like me, I would say like during COVID, I was like really depressed, and there was a whole week where I couldn't get out of bed, and I had to let myself feel that because now I tell myself I'm not going to slow down. I'm not going to stop doing what I love, and it brings you back to what you love. You
And
know?
a lot of times our initial reaction when we're going through something or feeling those emotions is we want to go numb it with something. Like a lot of times you're like, what can I do to get this feeling away? But I feel like you're right. There's so much value in just feeling it. Like like emotions come and go, thoughts come and go. Everything changes. Nothing is permanent. Like
And it's hard not to beat yourself up too when you're feeling like that. Like, why am I feeling like this? I shouldn't be feeling like this.
Yeah.
There's so much more to life, but you're allowed to not feel okay. Like I say, my favorite thing is crying because sometimes you just feel better.
And when you just like sometimes you just have to feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like let your emotions like you don't always have to mask it. Like sometimes I just want to feel. You got to feel
just
it
by yourself. You don't need to be broadcasting
Right.
to everyone that you're doing it.
Exactly.
There's something beautiful in crying because, like, when you let all of that out, you feel better after.
know.
You know.
My dad says there's no point in crying because he's just whatever.
Yeah.
He's that type of guy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I always tell him like, listen, it makes me feel better, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Do the things that make you feel good.
It seems like you have a really good support system behind you, which I think is amazing. I think just meeting your dad, like, it just goes to show what you do have and the support system you have behind it.
I'm very, very lucky, and not everyone has that, which I completely understand. I'm very blessed with what I have. But I think that the people who don't really have that type of support system, whether it be family or friends, there is someone out there. You don't necessarily need a good family because you have friends out there, or you don't need friends because you have family.
Yeah.
Or even strangers. You have no idea how many strangers want to help you too. So.
And I know Kev kind of already touched on it a little bit earlier with one of your questions, but there's someone out there, right? There's someone that I don't know if they're going to watch this, but there's someone maybe in high school right now, whatever, who is thinking about committing suicide, thinking about taking their own life right now, tonight. What would your message be to them?
To stop what they're doing right that second. Give yourself, I don't know if you guys heard the 72-hour rule.
Yes.
Where if you, no matter what it is that's upsetting you, whether it be your depression, a breakup, whatever, give yourself 72 hours. And if you're still feeling the exact same way that you were previously, then that's when you need to get help about it.
I think that's awesome.
That's a great rule.
Just taking time to really sit.
You need to, because what I did was so, like, it was instantaneous. I just decided in that minute I was going to do it. And if I just would have stopped and let myself think about, like, is this really what I want to do? Am I really about to go kill myself right now? If I would have given myself those 72 hours, I bet you we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah. But instead you are helping a lot of people more than you realize. I think you're amazing. I think I notice you're very gentle, you're very kind, and I really appreciate you coming on here.
I'm just so appreciative that you guys, like, I always have wanted to, in Northeast Philly, I think especially, so the male perspective on mental health is like something that is so not talked about. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I know firsthand of guys in the area who have committed suicide, and it's like, I know your friends would have helped you, but none of you are talking about it.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys are willing to do this, I think, is
I mean,
amazing.
we wouldn't really be having this conversation if you weren't here too. So just know you are equally, if not more.
We
part.
thank you so much for coming here tonight.
Yeah.
And that's, we're trying to give people, anybody who wants to come here, this is their platform. We're just trying to give a platform. That's what this is about.
I want to end on a few things I wrote down today because I did my own little research of advice and stuff like that. Just things I jotted down. Taking care of your physical health helps your mental health.
Yeah.
Like, like if you're going out to the gym or going doing this or that, let somebody in, let someone in, if you're, being closed off doesn't get you anywhere. It's about what you say or how you say it. It's not about what you say or how you say it. It's about engaging the individual. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just talking about to somebody and showing that you care may be more important than the advice itself.
Yeah. Make sure people just hear. They don't listen sometimes. So.
Yeah. And if nobody has told you this, we love you, we care about you, and you deserve to be here. Make a plan, take care of yourself, educate, gratitude, count your blessings, sleep, and most importantly, go to therapy. Is there anything else you want to add, or?
You pointed to me at gratitude, so I mean, I've talked about gratitude like a million times, and this is the third time we've done this, and all I keep talking about is gratitude. But gratitude goes such a long way. Yeah. Look at the little things in your life that you can be grateful for. The fact that you have anybody, if you have a family, even if you don't, if you can wake up in the morning, just think. It's so easy for us. Like I feel like naturally, it's just so easy to always start thinking about the things you don't have and the things you want. But you have to do reverse psychology on yourself and just start your day off with, all right, what do I have? What do I have today that maybe somebody else isn't as fortunate to have? Like, and just be thankful and content in that moment.
Yeah, is there anything else you would like to end off with?
Thank you guys so much for having me. I mean, I can't wait to see this and share
it.
I'm so excited to see what you do. Do you have anything planned or anything?
No, let's just hope 2021 is better than 2020, guys.
Where can people find you on social media?
So my mental health Instagram is Brenn Against the Stigma. I'm on Facebook. My name is Bryn McMahon on there. And I have a private Instagram too, but
all right, we'll have all that in the bottom. But Brenn, thank you so much
for
coming on.
Thank you.
This was
and
awesome.
by the time you see this, it'll be right around Christmas time.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, that'll be perfect.
Yeah, so be appreciative, give thanks, and be happy with the people you're gonna be with for Christmas. It's gonna be a small Christmas this year, I'm guessing, for a lot of people. But like she said, 2021 is gonna be a great year.
Yeah, it has to be better than this one.
Yeah, I wish you the best. We'll still be collabing and in touch.
We'll all keep in touch and everything.
Absolutely.
But this was episode 3 of The Loft, and thank you guys. Peace.